Good good afternoon, everyone. Coach Keon Smith here from Action Coach Guyana, and of course, the Who's Who in Guyana Business Directory. Now, what I love about the Who's Who in Guyana Business Directory is that it is a source of great information pertaining to investing in Guyana. And today I'm going to be speaking with a very, very special or a very key person well, when it comes to investment, and we are going to be having this conversation to help all the persons who are tuned in on our social media platforms who will be looking at the video live and even after, who might have questions or queries in their mind. We're going to be looking to answer some of those today. As we continue our interview series, we are looking to bring you as much information as possible so that you can continue to learn and edify yourself with what is happening in and around Guyana via the business owners, CEOs, representatives of those businesses and organizations. Today, I have a very special guest. Please welcome Mr. Owen Verwe, who is the CEO of GOInvest, Ghana Office of Investment. So, pleasant good afternoon to you, Owen. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon to you, Kian, and thank you very much for this opportunity to go live with you and to work with Action Coach in bringing some information relevant to the public.
Thank you very much, Owen. It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's really insightful. I know that's going to be insightful with information you're going to share today. So, first of all, can you just tell us in a very, very small nutshell who is Owen?
Very good question. Thank you very much. I sometimes get that question in an unusual way. So yes, I'm Owen Verwe. I am Guyanese. I've had that question several times before. I'm from the west side of Guyana. I'm from the west coast, the Marara location, and I'm born and bred Guyanese 100%. Background-wise, I've been working in government for quite some time, starting here with the Ministry of Finance for several years, working on capital and current budgets and projects. I moved to the UK where I studied. I did an MBA with finance specialism. Again, focusing a lot on the public sector finance related matters and public-private partnership related matters. From there, I moved on to Canada and continued in a development finance world, which is to do with hard infrastructure development. So most of my career has been in the capital accounting, development finance related fields, and preparing master plans, financing the master plans, implementing them, and monitoring for revision and updates in the Canadian market, particularly Ontario. Yeah. So from a background perspective, that's where I am. University of Guyana graduate, very proud of that, economics, and the remainder of it is from the University of Exeter in the UK. I am proud to say that in addition to that, I do understand the Guyana political, socio-economic environment pretty well.
Excellent. That's very, very, comprehensive background as to why this particular organization suits your portfolio. Now, GOInvest, for those persons who might have just heard the name or seen the building and are not exactly what it's all about, can you tell us about GOInvest?
Thank you for that, Kian. So the Guyana Office for Investment, typically called GOInvest for short, is the official government of Guyana agency that is responsible for promoting investments and facilitating investments of Guyana. It is also responsible for promoting trade or exports of produce and services out of Guyana. It's been around since 1994, thereabout, and has been working along. We work with many of the existing companies that export from Guyana. If you ever visit our office, you will notice a very large range of products in our shelves in the showroom to highlight those who we have worked with in the past. Outside of that, the other side of our work or the other side of the agency is that we have a vibrant and an informative group of young people and a few others who've been here for some time, and therefore we do have some institutional knowledge. So GoInvest, while being a government agency, we strive to work more like a private entity, providing that level of consultancy services to businesses in Guyana. Um, I think we've been successful at doing that in the last 4 years, and we hope to be more of a bridge between the private and the government, especially as it relates to the investment and the export related activities. GoInvest in itself, while being 25 years old, we're about to enter a new phase because as Guyana emerges, and we are emerging from a agro natural resource related economy with a bit of a strong petro oil and gas focus in the near future and probably in the distant future too. So one of the key things that we're doing to address that is that we've engaged two consultancy exercises. One is to relook at the organization's framework itself to see how are we structured, are we the best thing? And secondly, to look at the national export promotion strategy and investment promotion strategies. And how do we implement those? Those are two key consultancy exercises that are ongoing right now, and we hope those will be completed by November and we can relaunch the organization.
Excellent. What I love about that, Owen, is that even though you have been 25 years in existence, you are looking to continue to innovate and, of course, to bring more opportunities to businesses here in Guyana. Now, when you're talking, looking at your website and seeing some of the success stories, can you know, us regards to what are some of the requirements when it comes to accessing support from GoInvest?
Okay, so GoInvest works typically with providing support in the form of fiscal incentives and land in commercial and industrial areas that are available to us for providing that support. With respect to fiscal incentives, that is the waiver of duties and taxes right up to the tax holidays to businesses. GoInvest is a starting party within that chain of recommendation. So we provide the recommendation based on the proposal, the business case, and the feasibility studies that are available from the investor. And last but not least, where we do what is called a net economic benefits analysis to look at what is the foregone cost to the economy and what are the benefits to the economy from both an economic and to a lesser extent a social perspective. And we make that recommendation to the Minister of Finance and the Guyana Revenue Authority. That's the main part of it from the fiscal incentive. In terms of land, it's largely the same thing. What do we require? The process starts with an application that is made to GoInvest. That application is online, and if you go to the GoInvest website on the forms, it's the very first form. It's called application or expression of interest, and that outlines the areas of things that must be included in your application. So we need to know exactly who you are. We need to understand whether you're incorporated business, an individual, or just a business name registration. We need to have some understanding as to how much you're likely to invest, how many employees you're likely to create out of this investment, whether you're going to export items or whether you're producing for the local market. We'd like to know a little bit of, are you borrowing money from Guyana or are you borrowing money from outside of Guyana? All of that within the realm of how is the project being financed. And in terms of a longer term perspective, what sort of profitability is it for the venture? Is it something that is going to be long term or something that is not likely to be successful? And most importantly, is it something that an incentive is the only way in which the business can survive? And that's an important one because if that's the only thing to make the business go, what happens after the 3 years of the incentive expires? Is the business going to be sustainable or is it going to close shop? So those are some of the little information we ask for. We obviously look for some sort of evidence to support those things. Your business registration, whether you're registered with the National Insurance Scheme, and we put together a comprehensive package that makes up an investment agreement, which you will sign, which the Minister of Finance will sign, and we will be the conduit between all of the parties relate to. The same process largely goes for land, where there's land in industrial or commercial areas. At the moment, we deal with small portions of land that are managed by Central Housing and Planning Authority. Most of those lands are the ones that we work with, and we make the recommendations to the CHNPA and the Minister of Communities to assist businesses who are looking for lands for industrial and commercial purposes, and their lands available for that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Owen. That was very, very well put. Now, I just want to dive into both a little, because I'm sure persons who are tuning in may have questions as well. I'd like to encourage if anybody would like to ask a question, they can do so. When you mention the fiscal incentive, you make reference to duties and taxes. Now, I've heard before, and I would like you to clarify this. Persons often believe that GOInvest uh, is the start point for receiving the tax and duties waiver. Is that the case, or does the organization that makes the recommendation?
So, yes, that is correct. Go Invest, because of its mandate and how it was created, our role is to assess and make that recommendation to the next level in seeking an approval. That's what we do. We do not have the authority to actually grant the incentive.
Okay. I just want to get that cleared up so the persons listening as well may not have that idea. And secondly, you spoke about the tax holidays. Now, are tax holidays only for foreign companies coming into Guyana, or can local companies, based on their investment portfolio, also access tax holidays?
So that's a very good question. And let me take one step further back from where you are to say that Go Invest deals with foreign companies and with local companies. We deal with everyone who is looking to invest or looking to export from the Guyana market or invest into the Guyana market. There's no distinction between a foreign and a local. In terms of the tax holiday question you relate to, that is covered under the Income Tax Act in aid of industry. There are certain categories that qualify for application for that, and it's granted on a discretionary basis from the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
Those are unique activities where the investment either has to be quite significant, the job creation capacity has to be very significant again. It falls in unique areas where the risk-bearing nature of the activity is either quite significant or has never been done before in Guyana. For example, simply, if one wants to refine crude into petroleum in the Guyana market, no one does that right now and has never done it before. That would be an area that becomes eligible for that application. Um, and the list goes on like that. So I hope that brings clarity to two main positions. One, everyone who is investing, whether you're Guyanese or not Guyanese, and two, everyone, whether you're Guyanese or not Guyanese, is dealt with by this organization on an equal basis. The act which governs what we do does not distinguish fully between a local or a foreign, and neither does the operations here.
Okay. That is really, really good to know. I'm sure that's putting lots of queries to rest. And you actually touched on part of my next question. As you were mentioning, you asked if there any uh, distinction or categories or businesses that you would need to be involved in order to access support from your invest. But like you said, once it's unique, it all depends on what you're proposing, and of course, the size of the investment. Those would be some of the criteria that would be looked at in order to grant whether the incentives or tax holidays, etc. Is that correct?
That is correct. And again, it all refers to the Income Tax Act, Chapter 1806, in aid of industry. Under that section, you can find areas that are currently fully eligible. I will say that the Act, fortunately, has given the Minister of Finance the discretion Once there is something that we think is of real economic benefit to the economy, and it's over and above whatever is in the act, he does have the discretion to make that decision and to grant such incentives that we deem relevant. If you don't mind, Kian, there's one point I would like also to highlight.
Sure.
We get many calls, and we have many people who walk into the office looking for financing, some way of financing their project. Unfortunately, Go Invest, as much as you hear the word invest, we're not an investment providing agency. We do not provide capital for investment. We can advise you in the sources. So when it's on the smaller end of the capital, we usually recommend first and foremost the Guyana Small Business Bureau. It falls under the Ministry of Business, and they deal with the smaller end of the business scale. There are other entities out there that we know of, including the commercial banks, and they all provide capital on a larger scale for businesses. But Go Invest does not provide capital or any sort of financing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for clearing that up. Owen, you actually preempted one of my questions a bit later on. But I'm glad that persons can get to understand that you don't provide that actual financing support for larger projects. Now, with regard to, yes, so once persons look at Chapter 1806, they can then see the categories. Persons will have the saying that the oil and gas industry, it's a new industry, and our act may not have accounted for such an industry. Like you highlighted, the minister does have the discretion to grant um, incentives, even for those industries that are not accounted for by the act. My question is, how is GoInvest adjusting or innovating to take into account the opportunities from the oil and gas industry?
So that's a very good question. And let me go back to when we started speaking about Go Invest. And one of the things we talked about was Go Invest is actually looking at its organizational structure and ourselves as an agency. And then beyond that, we're looking at what are the strategies we're working with. So the first consultancy which I spoke about that is being funded by the Inter-American Development Bank,
Yeah,
part of the National Quality Infrastructure Improvement Project, is to look at the agency, its structure. Are we structured, or are we capable of going forward into the world, into the future, and the competition of the world as we are structured currently? That's the first question. And the second part of it is, how should we be best structured? And how flexible should that structure be to give us the adaptability as times change? Because we're all in an evolving environment at this point in time.
yes,
So that will help us in adjusting there. That consultancy is a bit, it's at least halfway through in looking at what we should be doing. The second part of it is the strategies. What is our national investment strategy? What is our export promotion strategy? And how do we implement those two, which is a three-sprong approach to that challenge. So we're hoping that those strategies will focus on no more than five subsectors or industries. At the moment, and for the past probably 20 years or more, we've been looking at everything in Guyana at an equal level, from agriculture right down to mining, the business process outsourcing, the call centers, and everything. Um, Looking back at the records and looking back at how we perform, that's a difficult task. We need to take a few areas, make those the highest priorities for the economy, focus on them. We're not abandoning or we're not forsaking anything else. It's just
yeah,
that these are our core focus, and we will put resources and we'll put energy into these. The other activities will come as they come, we deal with them. We will not necessarily fully go out promoting them and seeking them. So, in terms of the strategic perspective, that is what we are hoping to do with the strategy. In addition to the investment strategy, we're looking for some sort of alignment between investment and export. Things that you invest in that will result in export. Um, Not just products. I think there are opportunities for services, but implementing those will be another big challenge for us and how we operate in the market and keep evolving with it, because as we speak today, and based on what we know for the last 24 months, we know that from January to now, just those months alone has changed everything in the world.
Yeah.
So our structure has to have that amount of flexibility so we can adapt as opportunities arise and as various risks materialize that we would have predicted.
Excellent. And I'm happy that you touched on the period between January to now, because prior to 2020, there were massive projections for Guyana's growth. Some analysts even showing up to 8% of growth for our economy, not only um, directly from the oil and gas industry, but all the different subsectors of investments that were planning to come together to support the oil and gas industry. COVID-19 happened. COVID-19 single-handedly has changed the course of everything right now. My question to you, Owen, how has COVID-19 affected the prospect of investments that should have come on stream in 2020?
A very interesting question, and not just a question for GoInvest. It's probably a question for every business, every family, every home, every economy in the world. That has been a major impact on everyone. Some positive, some negative. How has that affected the Guyana environment? I think with respect to the oil and gas, what it has done is delay some of the decisions. And that is mainly because if we look at what Exxon has been doing, Exxon has not cut its capital expenditure projections for the Guyana opportunities they have in the Stabroek block, which is a very positive thing for us in Guyana if we look at the other oil producing countries and what the impact has been for them, not just Exxon, but all of the other the major oil producers in the world, both the exploration, the development, and the production of facilities, production of crude from the facilities. So we've been fortunate in that, and my projection with that is that what we are looking at is a shifting or delay in those expenditures, whether it's a major investment or support-related activity investments. Now, some of those investments in their structures too may change.
Yeah.
There will going to be some changes within because the way in which services are going to be delivered or products are going to be delivered is going to be slightly different from what it was prior to COVID. So in terms of that activity, I think the oil and gas is a bit of a delay, some amount of reductions, and new ways of how they're going to be delivering those. Time will tell us a bit more of that story, and those who are more directly in the sector will be able to give a more accurate assessment. In terms of the other areas for Guyana, I think this economy was carried largely for about 12 years by the mining, especially gold when gold prices were up, and then gold fell sometime late in 2013 and thereabout. But we've seen a recovery in gold prices right through, and gold is in the $1750, 1750 US dollar range this week again, which is close to what it was before, the prices had a significant decline back in 13, and probably the early part of 14. What that means is that there's still going to be some amount of investment in the precious metal industry for Guyana. The small miners are still there, probably some challenges of going back into it. But we've already seen a lot of activities at the large scale level. We've seen gold fields with two major merger acquisition related matters that are going on.
Yeah.
And the miner who is around right now, we know there are things that are going on behind the scenes with them. And the other exploration projects that are going on, we know they've been receiving capital investments, from the big four or the others who are interested in the exploration or the development work that they're doing right now. Mining and especially to get to the large scale mining, it's not a 12 months or a 24 months activity in the least. It's beyond 60 months from exploration right down to production. So those are the two big areas that I think we could focus on. The agricultural aspect of it is going to be vital. It has been. We were born out of agriculture as an economy. I believe will continue. But where we're seeing more and more opportunities now is the value add and the specific types. Key point to note is that with the coming of oil and gas, it has brought some standards and quality improvements to many of the things that we do in Guyana and we were accustomed to. And that's a positive thing. Standards have raised across the board. And we should really be thankful with the oil and gas coming for that. And with it staying, we're probably going to see a little more than that. But from the food and beverage and the entire agricultural line, I think with the need to supply both the oil and gas industry in a productive capacity and the associated onshore facilities, whether it's accommodation and all of the other logistics and related matters that are needed, I think we're going to see an improvement in the quality and in the processing and in the packaging of the final product that is there. Uh, that will mean some increase in production. Not sure how big of an increase it is, but the agricultural sector will get some positives out of that.
Yeah.
Coming on to the agricultural sector a bit more, COVID has brought some opportunities again for us that we can take advantage of. We're an agro-based economy. We're self-sufficient in food to a very, very large extent.
Yeah.
But not all economies around the world are as self-sufficient as we are. And herein lies an opportunity from two perspectives. One, a bilateral perspective of governments of Guyana negotiating with member states outside of the Caribbean and inside of the Caribbean to either negotiate deals or to highlight what we as an economy can offer to them from a food security perspective in the one way. And the second way is where the private sector itself can start seeking those opportunities in how they can develop their own markets. We know rice is a staple for most people in this part of the world or most of the world. We are a very good rice producer. We are also in the cost competitive line. We can compete to some extent. Um, so the point is, we can provide beyond the traditional agricultural produce. It just needs to be packaged and it needs to be available. There needs to be consistency. We need a strong intermediary in the market. We have producers, lots of producers on one end, and we have a market out there. But what we know is that there's always a role for an intermediary. In the market wants someone to deal with everything
Yeah.
that starts at the producer to just deliver it to their doors, specific point in time, specific quality, on a continuous basis. Once I think that little bit is sorted, we should be in a much better position. Last but not least, we're entering the hurricane season. Most of the countries that are likely to be affected will want to stockpile in food supplies, the basics and beyond the basics, to rally through that period of time. Again, therein lies another opportunity for the agricultural sector in general.
Excellent. I think that was fantastic overview. Taking persons throughout the different industries. So it also speaks to your wealth of knowledge in these different industries. Now, I just want to go into go invest itself. You mentioned in part of your speech about the incentives. Now, with the fiscal incentives, whether it be tax waiver or the tax holiday, I think the tax holiday lasts for 3 years, as you mentioned, if I heard correctly. But how long can you benefit from duties and tax waiver for your investment project?
So, a very good question, but let me put it into perspective. I need to just take one step back from that. The incentive is granted for specific items, products or services and items, and specific tax categories identified at the proposal stage. So they're actually listed in an investment agreement. And
Ah,
time period doesn't really get into the equation so much. It's the items that are there. Secondly, the time comes in when you determine how long you think you will require those incentives to get your project from start to completion. So,
yeah.
for example, if you're building a hotel and you think it's going to take you 2 years to build a hotel, we will structure that investment agreement to give you 2 years to acquire the items that are going to be eligible for the waiver of duties and taxes when you import them or when you buy them locally. And let me just clarify, These days, we don't look at imports only. We look at whether you buy them from a local supplier or whether you import them. I like to support local. And if we have people who are selling them locally, we should be able to support them. So we always have it here. Scale is an issue that makes cost competitive.
Yeah.
So that helps to understand that there's not a time period here. Where time comes is in two aspects. When you talk about things like tax holidays, but it's granted for a specific period of time, the Act allows 5 years with one renewal only, pending the conditions are met during those 5 years. That's the first part of the time restrictions. So you do have a lot of obligations to conform with during that 5 year period. And the second part is the investment agreement usually is valid for 5 years. So technically, and I think beyond that, during that 5 year period after you would have received the investment incentives, you do have obligations to deliver and report on, and to keep the business sustainable for that period of time at a minimum. If not, there could be enforcement activities from the Guyana Revenue Authority or the Ministry of Finance on that.
Okay.
So that's how the time period comes into context, if you understand me.
Yes, no, I quite understand. And what I also love about what you just brought out there, that there's also a high level of accountability for the incentives granted from these companies. So nobody will have the idea that I can just come and access it and then do whatever I want. So I love that.
That is correct. I think between Guyana Office for Investment, GOInvest, and the Guyana Revenue Authority, that was one of the early things we tried to, focus on to a lesser extent. And one of the things we brought in to assist with that is that there were some legitimate cases where people got incentives, but the businesses had challenges and they couldn't survive, so they folded. What we have is an annual project implementation monitoring form that businesses, are required to complete. And I say are required to, you are required to complete that and submit
Yeah.
it to. Intent of that is for jointly between use the business, we as Go Invest and government, understand if you're having challenges and how can we help you? Because helping the business is helping the economy. Whether it's
Yes.
employment related activity or whether it's just general economic activity in an economy. That's what we focus on.
Excellent. That's really, really good. Just as we come down to the end, Owen, we know that we are currently going through this as a country, the COVID-19. What words of advice or suggestions would you offer to individuals and or entrepreneurs out there in Ghana?
Very interesting question again. COVID-19 is one of these unique situations where the economy and the world has, most of us who are, less than 100 years old have never really experienced, and those who are over 100 years old would have been experienced it at a very young age and they can't remember some of the major decisions. The entire structure of a lot of things are going to change, and hopefully you build your businesses in a flexible way whereby you can adapt easily, whether it's ending an activity, a specific line of activities of activity, or whether you can take up a new opportunity very easily. I think that is one of the important thing of it. The other part of what COVID has highlighted is that the sustainability of your cash flow must have a lot of flexibility in there. If we think about it, for most businesses in Guyana, COVID came after the election slowdown period for some of those, for the local businesses in particular.
Yeah.
And what that's done is stretch your cash flow position as long and as strong as possible. So there's limited cash intake. Some would have still have debt servicing related matters and operational cost related items to go with. Um, Easing on the employment would have been one way of dealing with it, but that is not necessarily the highest cost for some businesses. It's probably up there, but not the highest. So in dealing with that, that's the challenge. I think what we've seen is a lot more businesses have gone via the virtual electronic means in trying to sell, through social media challenges, especially those that are active for Guyanese, the Facebook marketplace and the other things, which has worked well. We see the startup of quite a few delivery services which
Yeah.
is excellent. Very simple, but what it does is deliver service to people who want to receive something and they know where it's sold, and for those who are selling something and know that they want to get it to a customer at the other end. That has been very good. And more recently, after quite a long challenge, we see the banking sector is looking at the online payment systems and trying to facilitate some of those, I believe, with GT&T and others. So
Yes.
those are good means for people to keep monitoring because it can affect you and it will be a positive effect for your businesses. We know that COVID-19 is not going to be a situation to eternity. But what we do know, it's going to change how business is done. It's going to change how people think. It's going to change how quite a lot of activities occur. Things that would have been an overnight activity may become a 3 days activity as we return to normalcy or near normalcy to go. One of the big positives, though, is that from the food consumption perspective,
Yeah.
people are going to start using a little bit more local. For those who are using local, excellent. For those who are going to be using more local, it's excellent for those who are producing, and we've been producing all of those things locally.
Yeah.
I think we had some general discussions with people the other day to talk about the one simple item, which you probably would have had no discussion about in the past, lemongrass, or what they call fever grass. And the price for a bundle of it is about $200. And it grows in most people's yards, especially in the countryside
Yeah.
and in the city. And what is it? That's a starting point towards the healthy eating and the care and the concern of what we put in our bodies. And that's also another very good thing. It's the food and beverage industry we're talking about, which is agriculture. And therefore, it's a little more focused on what we produce locally or what is available locally.
Yeah. Very, very excellent point. Especially with regards to the utilization of local fruits and vegetables. And we've seen the grass move from something that you use occasionally to make your antibiotic boosty in Guyana to now being in excessive demand because of the properties it have toward helping your immune system fight the coronavirus. And for persons to also understand that we have many such plants here in Guyana. It's just that we need to just have a bit more research done behind it, where we can package our plants or herbal treatment more marketable so we can reach international market because lots of herbal treatment exist right here in Guyana. So that might probably be an idea that persons can focus on. Owen, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I have gotten a lot of my questions answered. I'm sure you're also able to educate many of our listeners about GoInvest and what is the focus of GoInvest. So thank you very much for being here. If you have any closing remarks, you can let me know. Would you like to share with us?
Thank you very much for that, Keon. Thank you for the work you've been doing. Just in closing, I'll say Go Invest still operates. Like many other businesses, we had to find some adaptation strategies. We don't want to receive people in the office fully because of the challenges that goes with that and the risk with it. Once you turn up at our gates, if you have to come here, the security guard will take your contact details, and within 15 minutes, someone will call you directly and have that discussion. Outside of that, if you call our offices, all of the numbers are still fully functional. Staff not necessarily working from the office, but they have their laptops with them. Phone lines are forwarded to people's cell phone. The connectivity is there. We continue to process investment agreements. We continue to help those who have challenges in different areas that we provide services for their businesses. And the office work continues as normal. We have never really closed. What we've done is just reduce the number of people that are in the building and our direct physical contact, with potential investors and exporters and those who are looking for advice.
Good. Excellent, excellent. So thank you very much, Brian, and thank you everyone on our social media platforms rather for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have your support. And Wayne, just also stay safe and work on keeping your team members safe as well.
Thank you very much, Jan, and stay safe.